Good evening. This is the July 15th, 2025 meeting of the Planning Commission, and we will start with our roll call.
All right, Stiles.
Here.
Green.
Here.
DuBois Leonard.
Here.
Osterholm.
Here.
Brennan.
Here.
Thank you. Also present is Planning and Zoning and Economic Development Coordinator, Nick Letton.
Great, thank you. Looking at the agenda, I don't think we have any changes. We really don't have a whole lot. Communications, we have one letter that we have at our place from Emily Schultz supporting the acupuncture facility. So we'll go ahead and review our minutes. And Judy, I want to say you did a wonderful job because there was so much going on and you did a really good job. Does anybody have any corrections, any changes? If not, I move approval. Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and approved. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Okay. Communications. Do we have any other communications?
That is it.
Okay, then we will go on to our council and committee reports. Gary is not here for our active transportation committee. Does anyone have a report for him?
Well, he didn't pass one along to me, but I did attend it.
Okay, is there anything you want to share?
Preparing to work on an update to the active transportation plan. So they want to go through the projects listed in the, I think it's 2019 plan, and update it. And they're also preparing for school opening, so doing some audit of bicycle and sidewalks.
Okay, great. And then Gavin, we have been waiting for you forever to get some of our council reports because I wanted to hear a report back from the work session.
Yeah, happy to do it. Yeah, and
Great.
I don't know if anybody told you what happened, but I had a long scheduled conflict for the meeting that had the first Windsor stuff, and then they said that it would be better if I didn't come to the second one because of how much, so I was not trying to skip out of the
We wondered.
fun
We
/ hard
missed
/ yeah, so anyway, yeah, glad to be back. Okay, so on the 16th of June, council heard the first readings for all 4 ordinances related to the Windsor Company's PUD proposals for the Student Union and Kettering building sites. And then I'm going to jump to 7-7 council, and then I'll go back to the work session because that's the longer stuff. And then on the 7th of July, as you probably know, council held public hearings for all 4 ordinances connected to the Windsor PUD projects. All 4 ordinances passed unanimously, and Planning Commission may see final development plans as early as September. So
Great.
that's what happened with the Windsor stuff.
Great, thank you.
And then, and happy to, answer anything from that. But then in terms of the work session, so hopefully, if you haven't had a chance, I'd say it's worth, might be worth watching the meeting if you're interested in this extensively. We started with some kind of purpose, what's the reason for getting together. Then we got a series of input from council members about how they're thinking about growth questions. And then we got some reports and some information from staff that would sort of help give us thoughts on what kinds of considerations would need to be made with with the possibility of growth. Then we sort of opened up and had some conversation, and then did some next steps. So I'm going to kind of key in and just read off what the next steps are, because in some ways I think that's probably maybe the most helpful thing, to have an understanding of where the conversation landed. And this is in no particular order. And to be clear, there is no commitment at this point to do any of these things. These are just the things that came up. And then one of the next steps is that 2 council members, at the last meeting we decided it would be myself and Carmen, would meet with staff, and so Johnny's office will be scheduling something so that we can talk through these things and decide which of these things we might do something about. And this may then have it's possible that something might come to this body. I don't know. That wasn't discussed, but I suppose it's possible. So again, no particular order. This does not mean it's like a thing that's happening. There was some discussion around single-family homes by right and looking at the code around that section of code. There were several maps and documents that were shared as part of the conversation, and so we talked about the possibility of making some kind of folder that could be accessible to everyone so that all the materials that have been considered, including a whole bunch of past reports and past documents that people can easily access and sort of know what's being considered. There was a question around looking at the call volume for police in the context of when the village had a larger population and when compared to what it is now, and as part of the conversation around services and the potential for need for more services if there was population growth. We talked at several different points about sort of if we get to X number of people, sort of thresholds and scenarios. So thinking about the main two that came up were if the projects that we've heard about that are in the pipeline right now go forward based on projections, how many people might live here, then what would that mean? Does that put us at any sort of question or challenge around say our sewer capacity or our electric capacity? And then the other sort of, kind of number we were talking about was sort of a more growth number. So that if there was, and I think everybody was within the range of sort of staying a small town, I think there was sort of some, we didn't come to some firm agreement of whether that 5,000 threshold is like, yes, we're okay with it, or no, we're not. I think it was, but I don't think that anybody is thinking about anything much more than that at the most, and probably less than that because the main number that was agreed upon that it seemed like everybody was thinking within was the Bowen study numbers. And if you add up the sort of number of people that go along with the number of units for the Bowen study, you'd probably be at somewhere around 4,500, I think, was my super back of the envelope math. Please don't quote me on it, but I'm trying to give you the basic idea of where we landed. So it was like, let's talk about what would happen if these projects that are happening in pipeline would go forward, and then what would happen if we had maybe a bit more growth, but there's nobody who's like, let's become a 50,000 person metropolis. So don't get too scared. Okay, and then there was a next step around talking to the county auditor about tax impact. So it's really a straightforward question of like, if we have more people, would that mean that we would pay less taxes on things like the schools? Or, like just a basic question of like, does it benefit us financially? Or does it make no difference? Do we all pay the same amount either way? So we need to check in with the auditor. And then we talked about meeting with the other taxing entities, so the township and the schools, to check in about this question. Sometimes, for example, you're here, people at the council, I have said it at times, we need to grow so that we have more kids. But we should probably talk to the schools directly about that, because there's been points at which they're like, we don't actually need more kids. Our buildings are fine. So we were basically just saying, hey, we should check in with the other taxing entities about how they're thinking about these questions. And then YSDC was also mentioned in that context as an entity that might make sense to check in with. Then we talked about specifically the sort of 5,000 person, cross from a village to a city. And so talking specifically about what those impacts are. We talked about, and I do want to put in a quick plug that Riley Dixon reminded me after the meeting that he had written a really good article in the news that covered a bunch of these questions. Yes. And in the resources at that meeting, I feel bad that I didn't mention that. And I saw him on the way here, and I thought that he was going to hear my mea culpa in public, but maybe he'll catch it later. And then we talked about maybe updating the Bowen study. I think we've all heard about this before, but basically the conversation has been that it would be, I think, $27,000 to get it up to date. That right now it's it feels pretty out of date in that it talks about like developing a house for $150,000, and I think maybe you could do a really small house, or anyway.
So is that one that the council has approved the money?
No, it's just been brought up as like maybe we could do that, and it hasn't been decided upon. Talked about the follow-up meeting. Kevin brought up paid parking, which I put in the proverbial parking lot immediately. But I did say to him at the last meeting, and I would say here, that that doesn't mean that we don't want to talk about parking, and it doesn't mean I'm not open to the idea of talking about paid parking. It was just sort of felt like it was outside the scope of that meeting. But parking certainly would be a part of that conversation, and so I think there's we need to put that on the list. And then the other thing, I think the last thing was to check in about impact fees. So essentially, I think you all probably remember when we increased the the tap fees and things to make it so that essentially the costs of doing business for the village are reflected in the costs that developers or homeowners or businesses pay in order to just make sure we're not losing money on doing basic business. There was some discussion about that doesn't cover staff time. It doesn't cover essentially other ancillary costs related to, so that if you build a building here, but the main thing that's impacted is a road 2 houses over, you might not have to do anything about it, but it might totally change the landscape of what's necessary from a utilities or infrastructure standpoint. And so again, no decisions made or anything, but just opened up the conversation of, hey, maybe we should think about how do we inclusively consider what fees might make sense for development for the future. So those were the next steps. I guess I just finish and say that I think it was a generally productive conversation in terms of kind of taking a step back and looking at the big picture, trying to get a sense of what council members wanted or were thinking about related to this, trying to get a sense of how staff would approach the questions. And my hope was and is that we can think a little bit more proactively so that when the various developments and annexations and growth conversations happen, that they're happening as part of a larger sort of plan. And obviously we have the comp plan and we have documents that have given us some guidance, but sometimes it feels like we're a little bit kind of responsive, like one project to the next. And I hope, again, this is just me speaking, I hope is that this will be part of a longer, part of a way of doing things where we might get ahead of things a little bit more in the future. So sorry for being really long, but you asked for a summary, so I tried to.
Yeah, well, no, that's fine. Well, one of the things that I asked council to consider, and I did send a letter, was inclusionary zoning.
Mm-hmm.
Did that come up?
No, it didn't come up. It wasn't a thing on the agenda. It wasn't a thing that we didn't, were you there? I can't remember.
No.
Okay, if you watch, it's we kind of touched on a bunch of things very quickly, and none of them at, I would say, a particularly, sort of policy-specific level. So, yeah, so no, we didn't talk about inclusionary zoning, and I'm trying to think, I'd say there were multiple people who commented on the hope of a diverse community from a sort of economic standpoint and the need for housing to match. But the specifics of how do we get there, Meg or Judy or anybody else speak up, and I don't think we talked about any of the things specifically at this point.
Right. I might be blending meetings, but my understanding was that the intent of what inclusionary zoning on some aspects tries to achieve is supported, and potentially we could get there by doing some review of the zoning code and updates to the PUD section of our code and refining it to encourage or require affordable housing through the existing channels, which may require additional enforcement tools as well, but not specifically inclusionary zoning.
Okay, because that was something I really wanted council to discuss, because we were going to take it up, planning, I was hoping, and then you all said, no, stop, wait, council wants to discuss it. And then they haven't discussed it.
Well, you know what's happened. We've talked about this. We brought it up at council. Council said, we'll talk about it in 6 months. We could rewind and just play the part of this meeting where we've done this before. I think ultimately there has not been the support on council to talk about it at length. And so both, because the time that we did talk about putting it on the agenda was for the goals, the village goals session. And at the village goals session, it's sort of like, I don't know, I guess I'd say like it didn't get any traction, I guess you'd say.
Okay.
And so,
Fair enough.
yeah, so I guess I would say, I don't know, Judy or Meg, speak up if I mischaracterize this, but I don't think there's any harm in continuing to say, when it's appropriate, hey, I'd like to talk about this. But it is true that to date, there has not been the majority support to say, let's spend time working on this.
Susan, when you say inclusionary zoning, what does that mean?
What I mean is exactly what happened with Windsor,
Okay,
is that they agreed that they would have 15% of their units permanently affordable.
okay,
That's inclusionary zoning.
okay. And so that's the kind of thing that you're thinking about. So this would
Yes.
really apply to bigger, you couldn't,
You
couldn't,
can do it by, you can say anything 4 units or more.
okay. But you wouldn't be saying like 15% of your house,
No.
Okay.
No, it's 15. And then Windsor, with the 96 units, they agreed to do 15
Units.
affordable units. And I can't remember how many were in the other one.
7.
7.
They got 7.
So, I mean, that is just such a wonderful way to get affordable housing. And
Okay.
they have more than what Home Inc. has been able to do in a couple of years.
Okay.
That it's a great way to, and you're dispersing the housing, so you have people living with market rate, which is the ideal way to do it.
Okay. And so then the consequence of doing that is that we would need to have some way of like actually maintaining and enforcing it, and, it isn't just that they're saying it, but they're actually doing it.
Yeah, well, Windsor, I haven't seen but they said they gave something to Meg, I think, that they actually do their own enforcement. I mean, they had a plan of how they would enforce it.
So they're
So,
basically saying we could call them, get their rent rolls, they'd tell us the income information, and
Right.
then the thing that we haven't figured out yet, we'll have to figure out for the final development plan is what accountability measure would exist. So that if we call them, we say, how's the affordability looking? And they said, and they had only 3 units that were affordable, well, then what?
and there's something.
So this is a pretty common problem with these things, and the way that, different setups happen around the country is that nobody sets up any accountability, and then
Yeah.
it's like, oh, it's a nice thing up front. The other thing I want to throw in is that I think we do need to at some point talk about AMI numbers, so area median income, as it pertains to those units. Because if you look at what they publicized originally, the amount of units they were talking about and the price ranges, the bottom end of the price range would fall within what is possible for 80% of AMI. And so,
Depending on the size of the family, that would probably be
That's
for a
correct.
large family, a larger family than what the apartments might be able
Folks,
to.
we probably don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole because it was
Yeah.
not publicized
Yeah.
as
Yeah,
a discussion,
okay.
so.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay,
Yeah.
any other questions for Gavin on council?
I did, so no zoning changes aren't really on there. I don't want to prolong anything. I just, overall, council zoning, we're good. That's the
No,
vibe. I don't want to, like I said.
no, I think that I probably
In general, not even
Meg could
inclusion.
probably say it a lot better than I could, but this single family by right, look at the code, talk
No, I
about
mean-
the PUD.
I'm sorry, I mean
Oh.
zone, any type, conservation, development, anything maybe more environmentally. As a whole, is there any drive at all for zoning, that council's talking for zoning changes, whether it's
Well,
inclusionary or otherwise?
Yeah, and I'm saying looking at the code and looking at single family by right and looking at PUD, that's sort of code for, hey, let's look at our zoning code. And there were multiple people who sort of talked about what kind of development they'd like to see. And I would say that
Okay.
conservation development, as I understand the broad concept, there's openness to it. We just haven't kind of opened up the can of worms of how do we approach it, but I
Just
think
curious.
there was generally
Yeah.
openness to it.
Great, thanks.
Yeah.
And I think we want to, I want to start it soon, but I want to plan it out and bring it to council, like the different public outreach that we would like to have up front and get their thoughts on that, what bodies to involve up front, because I think it would be like a major kind of task, you know, and making sure that we get everyone to weigh in on it. So I'd like to scope it out. I've kind of done it already tentatively, but then things kind of keep changing. Since we're talking about it, it kind of relates to future agenda items. I would like to bring forward a text amendment to address some like minor housekeeping things and
Minor what?
minor housekeeping items, like some issues not as, I guess, consequential to this conversation. And I still need to talk to council about it, but before I can do that, I'm supposed to have either planning commission or council, because of the code, like, staff's not actually technically allowed to bring text amendments. Anyways, I'm not 100% prepared for this, but I'm thinking that at the next planning commission meeting, I can kind of outline my thoughts better to you guys on
Okay.
what text amendment to bring forward potentially and how to separate it out from like the housing and zoning cleanup related to residential growth. Because I don't think we want to blend cleanup things and traffic study things and engineering things with, and I know Johnny has some engineering things he wants me to take through with the text amendment too, so maybe we can have a goal next meeting. I can bring that back and clarify it.
Okay, that sounds good.
Okay.
Okay, then we're going to move on, and this is the point where we have citizens' comments, and it is for people who want to talk about anything other than our public hearing. And the public hearing will be on the conditional use. So at this point, I'm going to swear in everybody who may come up and speak. So if you think you may, then go ahead and do this. So what I'm going to say is, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth in the matters before this board?
Just go like that.
Say yes. Okay, thank you. Okay, anyone with citizens' comments? Come on up. And so you've been sworn in, tell us your name and...
Hi, my name is Relita Hildebrand Chambers, and I was sworn in. And I did want to make comments about two things. One is, as Gavin said, I thought the working group was really, really on point. It was what I would consider to be, and I've only lived here for a year, but development in Yellow Springs seems to me to be very reactionary. It's as a developer comes in or as a property is sold, there's a lot of the sort of developer driving the train instead of the Yellow Springs community driving the train. And I felt like that working group kind of got at that issue of having a more strategic look, and not only having the strategic view, but Meg brought up the idea of perhaps talking about incentivizing the types of businesses and the types of developments that we would like to have in the village. So instead of waiting for someone to come to us, we could go to, you know, a business or to a developer with certain incentives to try to get the type of development that we want in the village. And I think having kind of lived through what I consider to be an atrocity of the process for the Leidick project that was on school property, and kind of looking at the angst associated with the current Windsor projects with respect to parking. And don't get me wrong, I think the Windsor projects are in the exact right position they need to be in, as far as centrally located, so people can take advantage of walking, biking, everything else and use our village businesses. But I do really think that it's important to, you know, kind of the first step is to envision what we want and then to go out and get it. And part of that is zoning, but I think, you know, part of it is just also kind of being willing to say no if it's not what we want, and going for what we really think we need in the village. And the second thing I'd like to mention is that part of that discussion too was about the Bowen study and what the developments we have coming down the pipeline that have already been approved look like overlaid with the Bowen study. And I am absolutely 1,000% against annexation of the Jones property and further development of that property. I think, again, it's in the wrong location. There's a lot of congestion on East Enon Road already, and having however many buildings would be back there, whether they're business or housing, would just add a tremendous amount of traffic to an already congested area. But in addition, we don't need single-family homes, according to the Bowen study. We pretty much met the requirement for that. So, thank you so much. I appreciate you giving me
Thank you.
time.
Thank you.
Anyone else want to say anything under public comments?
Yes. My name's Michael Wilson, and I've been here 19 years. And this meeting sounds a lot like, where are we now and where would we like to go? I'd like to make a general comment that one of the things that draws a lot of people here, thousands every weekend, is the charm that this village has and the fact that it's unique. The fact that it's more like Mayberry than Mount Pilot, so to speak. Recently, it looks like some farmland was, and I don't know exactly what happened, purchased not far from where I live, and now it's new housing. Well, one of the things I really liked about this town was that you could honestly say, it doesn't look like there's two houses in the whole town that are exactly the same. I don't think we can say that anymore. Another issue that concerns some people is gentrification. Now, I get it that makes some sense. On my way to a friend's house every couple weeks to socialize, I see a spot where there was a trailer for many years. Somebody either died or moved out. Well, did they replace it with another trailer? No, they replaced it with a home, and it made sense to me. A lot of cities want to improve, but gentrification can be a trap of sorts. There's a lot of talk about high property taxes really making it hard for a lot of people that have lived in a given area. Springboro's got this problem. All kinds of expensive housing, $600,000 to over $1 million. And property values are going up, so that means everybody's taxes are going up. I consider myself, and I have for many years, in the middle somewhere. I'm not a rich guy and I'm not impoverished. But I hear comments from people like, you live in Yellow Springs? I can't afford that. So these are some important questions, I think, and it also needs to be addressed at the state level. I about fell out of my chair when I found out that Mike DeWine decided we don't need any tax on firearms and ammunition in this state. And I thought, gee, don't we need the revenue? Where's it all coming from? We don't need to tax gun manufacturers and ammunition? Wow. Things like that really make me wonder. I was also wondering, are we going to change the name of our state to North Texas? Well, hasn't happened yet. Anyway, in general, I'm sort of against wholesale expansion, and I've seen the traffic on my street go from tolerable to really busy over the years. So I don't know if I've got a whole lot more to say. I do like living in this town. I want to make that clear. I like it quite a bit. But I'm not happy, and it just happened the other day when I wrote that check for the taxes. So I think it can be surmised from what I said, what my values are, and what I think might make it a bit of a better village. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else want to speak under public comments? If not, we will close that part, and we're going to move on to our public hearing. And this is the conditional use application, and I'm not going to say the names very well. David DeMayo and Leslie Roth. Owners have submitted a conditional use site plan application for acupuncture use at 545 Dayton Street. And so I'll let Meg talk about it first, and then we'll give you an opportunity.
All right, great, yeah. Meg Leatherman, thank you. 545 Dayton Street. The applicant is also the property owners, and they're both here tonight, David and Leslie. The property is zoned RB, or medium-density residential. It's presently vacant. There was an older structure that was demolished just recently by the new owners of the property. The Planning Commission for this conditional use is a final decision maker on this application because it's a conditional use, so it doesn't move on to council. And a couple housekeeping items. Adjoining property owners were mailed a notice on July 2nd. Signs were posted on the property July 3rd, and a notice was published in the paper on July 4th advertising this meeting. I'm providing public notice. A staff report was prepared that outlines the applicable village code that was provided to the Planning Commission and posted on our website on July 11th and made available to the public. So the proposal includes construction of a new structure on 545 Dayton. 545 Dayton has frontage on both Dayton Street and Limestone Street, as you can see by the vicinity map up there. There are already utility lines in the streets there, so they'll have to pay connection fees at time of building permit, but there's not much engineering that's needed for that aspect. The new structure that they want to propose is kind of a multi-phased, long-term plan that they can probably elaborate on a little bit more. I'm just going to focus on what right now is in front of you for consideration and relying to the code. And I think that's really probably our main job, is to focus on what they're trying to construct at this moment. So maybe it'll make more sense if they speak to it. But so right now the proposal includes a structure closer to the Dayton Street. It's about 1,200 square foot in size. They'd like to operate an acupuncture business. Acupuncture business is not a listed use in the zoning code, but it's similar to professional office use, which is listed in the RB zone. As long as the Planning Commission agrees with my opinion that it is considered a similar use. So I believe it is, due to the fact that it has operating hours that are pretty standard, similar to office. The customer demand will be scheduled, usually one customer at a time, and the employee count will be very small in this instance as well. So this conditional use for office is required still. A conditional use approval with the Planning Commission is still required per the code, even with a similar use. So the applicant has committed to providing 5 off-street parking spaces on the site, so off-street parking spaces. In my staff report, I don't know if anyone noticed, but in case you did, in the recommendation right before the conditions of approval, there's a typo in there that I'll have to remove. That's
Thing about having 2?
Yeah, that's not true. They're not requesting a modification at this point in the process. That was left over from the conditional use on Winter Street. So I just didn't update that. So they are requesting 5 off-street parking spaces and bicycle parking.
And what was the one that is I guess I don't see where the typo is.
So after it says recommends approval, including the parking modification.
Okay, modification,
There's no
okay.
parking modification. They
Okay.
are committing to 5 off-street parking.
Okay, and would those have entry from Dayton Street?
Yes, that's the plan, is to have them enter and then go back behind the building and park
Okay.
behind the building.
So that map is not up to date.
It is, yeah, that's an aerial, you're right, that's correct. It's not 100% up to date.
And that's my big worry, is that there is no good way, like, because of the bump out there of the curb, now you've got it's narrow already, and now we're going to have a driveway going through that. And I don't know,
Well, maybe when we get to the applicant, you can ask that.
okay.
Because I'm not super familiar with exactly what you're saying, but I think they are probably. Yeah, oh, 1 second, 1 second. 1 second. So that's okay. So anyways, I have some conditions of approval in there, pretty standard ones, just, stormwater management plan in the future, and bicycle parking, providing that, off-street parking spaces, and getting a sign approval and a stormwater management plan.
And what's just to the west of that? Is that the little, like, park?
Bill Duncan
Yeah, you got the
Park.
park and the
Okay,
garden.
Bill Duncan Park.
Yes.
And then there are the gardens.
Yep,
That are,
the fence, near deer fences now around them, and the food pantry.
Okay,
is on Dayton there.
okay.
This was the McKee property, right? The one that came
Yes.
and talked to us about.
Yep,
There was the mess up on the.
yep. It was zone conservation before an accident.
Oh, this was the property that,
Yeah.
okay,
And there's a really old building there that they
Okay.
demolished. Yeah.
okay. Okay, any other questions for Meg?
I had the same thing, because full disclosure, I got the letter, I'm a neighbor, but the bump out, I mean, I walk by there every day, so I didn't know how they were going to move.
Yeah,
We're good?
go ahead, yeah.
Yeah. How they're going to have to cut into that bump out, I think, a little bit, and if they're going to describe that, that's fine. That's the only
Okay.
question I had. It seems as if there's not enough room to put it,
Oh, you mean
drive
the
without-
bump out for the new?
to restrict the
Right.
traffic, you know? 'cause-
Right,
yeah.
okay,
So
right.
do you have something more to say about that?
No, I'd like to.
Then we'll let David and Leslie, one of you at a time, if you want to come in and just do introduce yourself. And then if anything you want to say for us.
Yeah.
Sure, you can both be up there.
I'm David.
And I'm Leslie. I'm the acupuncturist.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess when they put the new sidewalk over there, there is an approach. It's right after the bump out.
Okay.
And if you drive by there,
I
and
missed
it's
that.
actually, they did one as well on Limestone. So there's an access from one side to the other. It's almost like an alley. If you look at the line, I believe, the furthest line from the park there, it's pretty much
Right.
down that line.
Yeah, I saw the schematic. You have to be right up against that
Yeah.
property line, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, cool.
So,
So you're saying that the bump out does not go to the end of the property line, so that right after the bump out, there's going to be the driveway cut?
yeah,
Correct.
it's already there.
All right, let me, and if I don't mind, this, I actually have it pulled up here
Okay.
on my little computer. I don't know if that helps. So north, south, so it's like on the northeast side of the property, that corner. It would be.
Oh, I see it.
See how it comes back? So it would be narrow.
Do you see it?
Okay.
I wonder how wide that is between,
And
but,
does this fall under the thing with the, when we were doing the gateway district changes, we had that thing about curb, or about driveways within a certain distance of each other on main roads or arteries or something? Just what is that part of this? This isn't a main road?
it is a main road, but we did not adopt that. We did not include that, right?
We did.
Okay.
I thought there was a
Okay, let me pull it up.
150-foot thing. I mean, I don't want to, I think
it wasn't
the
for single-family
acupuncture thing
homes.
sounds great. I don't have any trouble with that. I'd love to see more things there. That thing is already kind of dicey because it gets busy, and having a driveway there could, make it dicier.
Yeah, let's see. And you're right, we did pass that. And there was a concern about how that would impact.
You got to be careful. I live right on Dayton Street. You got to be careful pulling out there. It's just a fact.
Yeah, people speed.
I mean,
but
it's-
it is reduced down to 25 now all the way
We live
out.
right across the street from that property.
Okay.
With that bump out, it's
Or
probably going to
diagonal,
be better
so.
visibility, honestly.
And it is better,
Yeah,
as
like
you said,
poking
that
those
the speed limit is 25 now.
It is.
Yeah,
Makes it-
25.
Yeah, you can really good.
So we
And I got a really good look at it because I've turned around to
I
church.
can't put it
looking
up
at from
there,
King Street, so-
unfortunately. Up there, you mean?
No, the
Oh,
regulations.
so the regulation that he's referring to, I can't pull up because they're not in the codified ordinances. They're just adopted, so they're on a Word document on my computer back at my desk, so.
Okay.
So what we could do is have them come back or talk about, have them kind of show it, or we can look into it, have them come back to the next meeting to evaluate it then. Or I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on the driveway location being relocated off of Limestone or,
So what we're concerned is what if the regulations are, what, that a driveway can't be closer than,
It was pretty big. It was 150 feet or something on it had, at first it.
arterial.
Yes. And so, and I don't know whether this road applies or,
so it's grandfathered in all the other properties, but it would be a new property that is that correct? That would be
So
impacted?
is there a driveway right next door?
But on the other side.
Oh, and there already is a driveway cut, so,
Yeah.
It's probably grandfathered in then, that's correct.
Oh, because it's a driveway.
Yeah, it's the Douglas home.
Yeah.
So the other thing that this raises for me, I've been thinking a lot about, both of our commenters referenced it tonight, and then the conversation around the Windsor development. So when we talk about like, it's already dicey, right?
Yeah.
Or like, that there's a lot of congestion already, I can't remember who said it,
Yeah.
already a lot of congestion on East Enid.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, I don't know, like for the 10 minutes at the beginning of school and the 10 minutes at the end of school, or in this case, I don't know, I mean, I feel like I've driven down Dayton Street. How many times does it get, now, do you need to pay attention when you turn on, off of, any of those big angles? Yeah, for sure. But I'm just bringing up the broader question is like, what do we do about this dynamic of how much is too much? People talk about, my favorite new one is it'll be street fair every day.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, well, like, I don't know, there's just hardly any cars most of the time. Now, there's times when there's more.
Yeah, yeah.
But where's the line of too much? This just doesn't strike me as an area where there's that much activity most of the time, and the people just have to be careful.
I agree with you, because I think sometimes we're used to having no traffic, and so if there are like a few cars going by, then we're like hysterical. I ride my bike all over town, and I do a bike ride almost every day, and I cross Dayton Street twice. And I shouldn't be saying on television, but when I get, because I'm on Enon and then crossing it, and a bike cannot make that light turn. If a car pulls up, great. But if it doesn't, I just have to look and I just go.
At least you stop.
And so I'm saying there's not
A lot of bikes go just
that
fly out
much
there.
traffic congestion. And then I cross it later on. But it's like, there are cars coming, but it's like not rush hour.
Well, I think that the larger issue here is, you did pass that as part of the
Yes.
code, so that's a thing. If the driveway, however, was already in existence, then it is grandfathered in. So then if that's the
Question
case,
is-
the question becomes, is there an issue with the bump out? So,
And then are you okay with the current location of the driveway cut?
Yeah,
Because that's where it has
because
to
it
stay.
actually makes sense,
Wait a minute.
I think.
Okay, so
You
it just
you said
can't,
there was
it
an old
can't
building
move.
there prior? a while
Yes.
back?
Even
Did
had
it have a
electric-
driveway?
Yes, it was put back in the exact same location.
And May can show you if you want on her computer.
Well, then that wouldn't that be part of the grandfather then?
Yep, yep,
Okay.
yep.
And also, speaking of traffic, she had an office in Troy, which has a lot more traffic in downtown Troy than Dayton Street.
Yeah.
And she's only seeing one patient at a time, so there might be a crossover. So,
But apart from that.
but apart from that, somebody might call in for an appointment, and then somebody's getting ready to leave. So you're never going to have for an extensive period of time, and it's an hour long, usually, typically, roughly, estimate. So it's not actually going to be, causing more traffic issues, I believe. I mean,
You're just bumped, I think I agree with Steve. I think probably we all support it's just you're bumping into these other questions where it's all relative, where it's like, is 7 cars a lot? People, like, I'll use another example. When we changed the street to one-way on Walnut Street, and people are like, oh my God, it's the end of the world. The traffic is overwhelming.
It was.
I took my kids there every day. There was 5 minutes where it took you longer than immediately to get from point A to point B. Literally 5 minutes. And so there's a question of like, is that acceptable? I can completely see how somebody would reasonably say, no, I do not ever want that risk. To me, that is not the way I would approach it, but I understand that's how some people feel.
And so I'm not worried, I mean, having to wait longer isn't really, the issue is the bump out already makes it a little bit confusing, and then if you're going through that intersection and then there's a driveway, I'm just worried that it's gonna, we're setting up a situation that's more likely to have an accident, because there's already a lot of visual things going on, and so.
And the question is, where is the risk threshold, right?
Yeah.
Like we have the flashing lights now and the stop signs. Personally, I don't like them. I think it's too much. I think it's like I don't know. It feels like it's a visual. And yes, is it maybe a little bit safer? Maybe. But where's the line? Then should we put
Yeah.
You know, so it's just a question of where is the risk, and I think it's legitimate for us to figure out.
Okay, did you have something you want to say?
I'll just say, with the bump out, if I'm backing out there and I've got that bump out there, where there's no trees along there, I've got better visibility there than I do in a lot of those other places you're backing out from.
Okay.
I mean, that's my take.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
So on your plan, then you're planning on, and this is sort of, is this what your structure's going to look like? Oh, it's
Are you
lovely.
going to put the mountain in too?
Yeah.
That's what I said.
Thank you. It's really lovely, and this is just for point of interest. So you have an architect that's working on that, or you've come up with some, great. And it's going to have an apartment in the upstairs, is that correct?
It's like an in-law suite.
Okay,
for
so,
now.
and
We're
you
not,
just,
because eventually, hopefully, we're planning to build on the Limestone Street side, so it might actually hold value for us to move in there after we sell our house.
Sure.
And then we stay
and
there
live there
for a
until you
short
build
period.
it.
Yeah.
And you know that if you wanted to do a
Yeah.
Transient guest lodging.
yes, you would have to get a permit for that from
We're
county
not-
force. Okay. Okay. Any other questions?
I know we talked about them coming back, but could we do it as like assuming that we look into the thing we passed and it doesn't conflict, then
Yeah.
I think
okay.
that's what we're
And
planning.
then if
Like a
there is
condition of approval.
conflict-
I'm thinking maybe we
Yeah.
could add a condition of approval,
Okay.
Okay.
I'm
That
kind of
requires-
confused.
review
What's the
of,
issue of, what do we got to review?
So we believe that the curb cut was there was one there for the previous house that was there, so that would make it grandfathered in. If it wasn't there, then there's this thing about the 150-foot thing between curb
What did you
cuts.
say?
and I think overall, just the safety of the intersection, just making sure our streets department reviews it,
Oh, that would be good.
because they didn't look on that specific issue. They looked at water, wastewater, utilities, but not that specific issue. So if we could approve it and then have it be like an administrative review signed off by the Public Works, so they don't necessarily have to come back and wait for a public hearing.
Okay,
but
so administrative,
if that's okay, Stephen, I don't want, okay.
thank you.
So just provisionally, if they said that they think that it is increasing the risk to an unacceptable level, how do you feel about putting a driveway from the other side?
So we're going to do that anyways because we're planning on building our house there.
Okay.
We just really didn't want people driving past our house.
Sure.
Yeah.
And like, sort of separating the business from, because we have 2 young kids, just sort of like.
Totally understand.
Yeah.
Like our
Dog.
privacy and like,
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess if we had to,
Can I ask a question?
So there's an option
Is
at
it gonna
least.
run-
yeah.
Yeah.
From that map, will they run into any problems there with the same issue?
On the other side?
Limestone is a lot less busy, obviously, and
But the
feeder.
junction with, you're mainly concerned about, aren't we grandfather, you're checking on the ordinance of 150 feet from King Street and,
We're saying they
no,
probably,
it's-
they are grandfathered in, but we're going to have an administrative review for that.
understood, but grandfathered in for 150 feet from this intersection, correct?
from another curb cut. It's the frequency.
Not the intersection.
Yeah, no, it's the
Okay.
frequency of the
It's the
driveways, and
curb cut.
I don't think Limestone would be, I think Dayton Street would be in a different category as Limestone. So it has
No,
nothing to do with Bureau Road.
they're both feeder
So
streets.
this
They are?
They're both feeder streets, but the issue is not, that yes, they're good on grandfathered driveway. What has changed, however, is that the village has now placed a bump out right in front of that driveway. So that is why that needs an administrative okay.
All right.
But I don't know that that's anything, planning commission
Yeah.
just can't really weigh in on that particular piece.
Okay,
So,
Okay.
all right.
Okay, is there anything else you want to talk about or tell us about? Any other questions we have for them? Okay, then you're welcome to sit down, and then we need to open the public hearing on this. So anybody who would like to come and speak on it, come up, tell us what your name is, and make your comments. And if there's nobody who wants to comment, then,
I kind of have a little,
okay, come on up.
Come on up.
I didn't have anything planned, but it was,
And so you were sworn in,
I was sworn in,
and tell us your name.
Samina Shaw,
Okay.
and I'm a neighbor.
as well. I'm curious to where you live. But anyway, I was thinking about, Stephen, your issue about just the safety and what traffic that might cause.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to say that I don't know if it's just one patient at a time who's there for roughly an hour. It could be, like, the turn in just seems like the same amount of time as, like, me coming out of my driveway and I'm just living 2 houses down. You know what I mean? So
Sure.
I don't know how, I mean, in my opinion, I don't know how that would be a risk, because it's not, yes, it's a business, but not, it's almost like just a neighbor or a family member coming in and out sometimes. So,
Sure.
yeah, that was it.
Thank you.
I was sworn in, I'm Donna Howler, and I live just 3 lots down on Limestone, and I'm in favor of it. There were a lot of other things that I was kind of afraid were going to go in there, so I'm really happy. David's been our neighbor for a long time, and he's a great guy.
Great.
So we're really for it.
All right,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else want to comment? Then I'll close the public hearing. Any other questions or discussion among ourselves? Okay, would someone like to make a motion with the 5 conditions of approval? And I'll read the conditions of approval. Provide 1 bicycle rack prior to commencement of office uses. Construct 5 off-street parking spaces. Prior to installment of any sign, obtain sign permit approval. Prior to commencement of acupuncture use, obtain village approval of stormwater mitigation plan. And the 5th one is administrative review on the curb cut.
So I'd say obtain administrative review for Dayton Street driveway location.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve with the 5 conditions.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Judy will do roll call.
I did, yeah.
Thank you. DeBoer Leonard.
Yes?
Runyon.
Yes.
Osterholm.
Yes.
Green.
Yes.
Stiles.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, it's been approved.
And that's how the sausage is made, people.
Right.
It's not a pretty process.
Do we have any old business to discuss? Okay, and we talked about new business, possibly having text amendments, and we're meeting in August, is that correct?
Okay, so I'm going to actually just bring back, my plan would be just to bring back a scoping.
Okay.
A document of text amendments.
Okay.
And then there is going to be a discussion of transit guest lodging on the next agenda. It was one of the commission's goals
Yeah.
to discuss how we think it's going, our current regulations with the 500-foot limit, and if we wanted to make any changes. So Gary and Stephen have been working on pulling together like different information from other jurisdictions. Hey, I was just giving you some credit. That's what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah, I did a whole lot.
Lazy, sorry.
So will you have information on the total number in our community? How many of them were grandfathered in before ours? Because we know with Elisa Abels that she had a number that were grandfathered in.
Yes, yeah.
And any other, I guess, information you think, maybe the amount of money that it's producing? It'd be
Sure.
interesting to
Yeah,
hear.
okay. I have all that
Okay, great.
readily available. Yeah.
So we're just in future agenda right now, right?
Yes.
Okay. So,
Oh, yeah, so you guys you don't have to listen if you don't want, unless you want to.
Run,
Unless you want to.
run.
so I appreciate, I'm glad to know there's some work happening on the TGL thing, and I was just kind of wondering about sort of a check-in on the goal stuff of, which things we've had any progress on. And then I guess I wonder, should we put something on the agenda to have some more discussion about the zoning stuff? Maybe the entry point is the smaller changes, but when would we start talking about the possibility of other changes?
I think I can probably answer that. I would like to have a conversation with Johnny before I come back and like really commit to
Yeah.
what I'm imagining in my head, like scoping for a more of like the one where like there's conflicts in the code. We need to update some engineering references to different standards that we need, potentially add a traffic. That I'm thinking could be separate from the discussion on residential uses, and so I just want to make sure he's okay with that, and then potentially even the conversation of, maybe getting a consultant to help me with that, so we could do some really good upfront work with some of the different existing committees. The Environmental Commission was one of those that they had put together a really well thought out letter about what changes they wanted, so I think we would at least want to talk to them up front about, kind of what their thoughts were and how it might be able to be incorporated or not be incorporated, just let them know. The Environmental Commission, but they've had some, they're not like fully operating at the moment, so.
Yeah, so that would be great, and then maybe, because I think there's been this question of like, what do we do here, at Planning
Right.
Commission? And so we have a little bit more clarity of what is happening with village goals. And so I guess in that conversation with Johnny, maybe next month, you could kind of come back and say, hey, are there any things that you feel like would be helpful for this group to work through, or discuss? If it's helpful, I could go, talk to council too, but I think I think there's a general sense of like, we want to think more about proactively planning, and it seems like the Planning Commission might be a place to do some of that, but I don't know what the role is, and I feel like maybe you could at least start that conversation to get some input on for next time.
Yeah,
Cool.
definitely. I mean, the real limit to anything right now is that I can't take forward a text amendment, like per the code, without authorization from the Planning Commission or council. So,
Well,
that's the limiting thing for,
but Meg can bring to Planning Commission her proposed text amendments. Those are not public hearings, they are not yet being amended, and then Planning Commission says, sure, yeah, bring that back as a text amendment to us. That's all completely above board. So
if I knew all the things that I wanted to include in the cleanup, I could just list them off right now, but there's just so many that I don't think I want to do that, because I don't want it to be, there's a lot. We have been talking about it for, a year and a half, and I've been keeping a list of little, like floodplain administrator defined, like small little things like that. We don't have that defined,
Then you're going to bring your scoping document at our next meeting, potentially things
Yeah,
that could be
and
a
hopefully,
text amendment.
to have time to talk to
And
Johnny.
we're going to talk about transient guest lodging.
Yes, and then also have 309 West Whiteman, TGL. Actual TGL application
Okay.
for 309. It went to BZA because there's another one within 500 feet, but it got approved by BZA, so
Oh,
it's
really?
going to come to Planning Commission, if the conditional use approved.
We did what?
Remember?
I don't remember, there's too many meetings.
And why was that, I wonder?
What was that meeting?
I think because the intent and spirit of the code was to help residents that live here supplement their incomes,
Yeah.
and so, and she, this applicant has lived here for a while and works in the village, and so they felt like they wanted to help support them with getting extra income.
Okay. Okay. I guess that's it. Anything else that anybody wants to bring up?
Well, I'd just like to publicly congratulate the police on the arrest they made on the downtown burglaries, because they've been taking a bashing online over this stuff, so.
Oh, great. I'm
Yeah,
glad to
so
hear that.
I'm real happy to say, because they don't get enough credit when it's due them.
Great. Thanks for telling us. Okay, well, if there's nothing else, then I move we adjourn. Is there a second?
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye. All those
Anyone
opposed,
opposed?
keep them out.